In the criminal justice system, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. In New York City, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Special Victims Unit. These are their stories.
So, what was your relationship like when it first started?
For the first year, it was awesome, great, loving. Kids loved him. The kids were young. I loved him. Seemed like it was all going good for that first year and a half, 2 years.
Were there any, like, signs in the beginning? Any, like, red flags?
When, to extent because I've been through domestic violence before, that there was signs, but I think I just null and voided them because love and the companionship felt good because I'd been through a divorce, had 2 small kids. So, yes, there were signs that I should have caught of the yelling, controlling, lying.
What were some of, like, the instances or, like, injuries that you had?
Oh, there were several. Hit over the head, black eyes, verbal abuse. The most, I guess the most memorable one that finally broke the camel's back, if you could say, broke my ribs, threw me downstairs. With the kids at home. They were asleep, but broke my ribs. Up, there was 2 incidents, one that I forgot, and that's one thing about domestic violence is you forget those things that happened in the past because that's something that happens in that because you want the love and the companionship and you think it'll all go away, you try to erase it, and I think the last one that happened made me open my eyes and realize, because he actually put me in the hospital, that sometimes you forget the past because that's what you keep doing with domestic violence. Is that you keep on saying they'll change, they'll promise they'll change, they won't do it again.
That's one of the questions. No, she's fine. It's okay. No, you're fine. Did you ever tell anyone? Like your family or? Didn't
have to tell anybody. My kids heard it and saw it. People saw it and heard it. People would see the bruises on my eyes and I would lie. That, I hit something, I fell. That's what a lot of domestic violence, people will lie and say it's something else and that's not what happened, or I fell and broke my ribs. Or
So had there ever been officers dispatched before, like with the last relationship?
Yes, several times.
Did they ask you any questions, like when they were dispatched?
The first probably couple of times, yes. I mean, what happened, how did it happen, what's going on, why. Then once they'd been dispatched several times, it was why are you staying with him, you need to get out. That They would more counseling, but it took several calls for the counseling to happen at that time.
Do you know, in the last instance when he broke your ribs, do you know how long it took the officers to get there?
Officers weren't called that night. He actually got up and left. At that time I figured out he was on drugs. At one point he was a drinker and he was in the restaurant business. Pretty sure there was drugs going on prior to that, but at one point I didn't know it. Never knew what heroin was and how it was used until someone pointed it out. And I figured out that he'd been doing it for several months. That night he ended up leaving. I didn't go to the hospital till the next day.
Right.
Because needed to get up, get my kids to school. Went ahead and checked in the hospital, and then they had to call the police because they found it was domestic violence. So they came up to the hospital immediately. So,
did you want him to go to jail?
At this time, yes.
What was the recovery process like for you?
Oh, it was. I think it's still recovery. After, I'm talking, how old? Kids were young. They were in elementary school. Both of them are in college now. And I think it's still recovery. I think it's still. It took a long time to date someone else, and quite a bit of time. I mean, it's recovery. I mean, it's hard to trust a man again.
Yeah. What advice would you give another young woman that was going through this?
They're not going to change once they hit you. They're always going to hit you. The promises, and, I can't say that for some men or women that abuse their husbands, because it's not just men abusing, it's women abuse husbands too, or boyfriends or partners or whatever. But unless they get help, they're not going to change. They're always going to be one that hits, one that verbally abuses you continuously. And I think the best thing to do is be open, talk to whether it's your friend, find a counselor, find someone that doesn't know that person, find someone that knows that person. But talk with people, don't hide it. And get help, get them out. People that are abused, go back to that partner, which causes more danger to the person that's being abused. And this is just my viewpoint. It's because 90% of person, they do go back to that partner, which causes, once they're arrested, come back home, first then they have to go bail them out. But it's the person that's being abused that needs more of the help and the services, I think. And I think I'm answering that the way I should, but I think not only is it the abuser, it's the abusee that needs the help, that has to have some kind of, because they're not going to leave. Not the first time, maybe not the second time, maybe not the third time. It takes multiple times, and I think a lot of people hide domestic violence behind closed doors. A lot of people lie about it.
Yeah.
And I really do, because I know I did.
Yeah.
Until I think I went to the last straw. Till it was like, my kids can't see this anymore. It was, so, and I can't take it anymore. But I think it was more of my kids, but I think I might have even stayed with him if I didn't have the kids at that time. Maybe not much longer, but then again, I found out he was on a major drug that was causing issues and he was still domestic before that, or abuser before that. But I like that there's laws, or that they have to do something now. I think it will help the abusee to be helped better, or the one that's being abused, to maybe make that step of getting help, or getting them out of their life, or changing their ways, or I don't know if it'll change the person that abuses people.
Right.
Unless they go through counseling. So, I mean, putting them in jail is not going to solve anything. It's getting counseling, getting help, getting anger management.
Yeah.
That's what I see more than throwing someone in jail is not going to change anything, but to me, bring fuel to the fire.